All right, welcome everybody to today's webinar. We thank you for joining us, hosted by the National Center for Pyramid Model Innovations. My name is Victor Trinidad with NCPMI. This webinar is part of the Implementation and Scale Up webinar series. Today's topic is implementing the pyramid model in programs supporting Indigenous and Alaskan Native children and their families. Presented by Tashina Malson, who is unable to join us today, Whitney Sauer, Marjorie Harris, and Kitty Merculia. So thank you very much. Please proceed.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lisa Fox, and I'm actually the panel host because I don't have the expertise to bring this topic to you. And I'm so grateful to the two programs that have. We have Cook Inlet Native Head Start that'll be talking about their program and their experiences, and Zaasijiwan Head Start that's in Wisconsin. And wouldn't you know it, as soon as we started our webinar, they have a fire drill in their program. So our presenter will be back, I'm sure. I have a little bit I want to say about the topic before we dig in, but one of the reasons we really wanted to do this is there have been questions, I think. People have talked about, what does pyramid model look like when we bring it to Indigenous and Native populations and programs that serve those children and their families? Are there things we ought to be thinking about? And what kind of outcomes might we expect? And I know that in our states who are actively engaged in statewide implementation and scaling, that our goal, especially our goal that is consistent with equity and ensuring that each and every child has the support they need, that we really want to bring the pyramid model to these programs. And so super excited. We have two programs that have been doing this work, who do have the expertise, who can share that with us today. I want to point out a few things about the pyramid model that kind of, just to kind of level set, like we're all thinking about it in the same manner, that I think helps frame bringing the pyramid model to specific cultures or programs that are serving children who might be members of specific communities or cultures. So one of the things everyone should know is that the pyramid model is a framework, right? It's not a curriculum, it's not stuff, but it's a practice framework. And it was built thinking about what are the evidence-based practices so that we can ensure every child gets every child's social, emotional, and behavioral needs are met, that we're promoting all young children's social, emotional competence. The other reason it's really important that we hang on to the notion that the pyramid model is a framework is because the way we're going to implement the pyramid model may look different in different locations, communities, places. It holds true to some core values, and we talked about the pyramid model core values of being prevention focused, of establishing caring communities. That's so critically important, both in our classrooms and across our classrooms. The pyramid model, a central value is equity, inclusion, and ensuring belonging for all. That means children and families. Ensuring that the pyramid model is trauma informed, that we think about equity and the use of anti-bias practices. And of course, we have our data informed pieces. So those core values are consistent. We have a practice framework. We have these kind of core values of what it should look like when we bring it to a program. But we also have the core value that when we do the pyramid model, we're doing it in partnership with families and communities. And that's not just partnership with families and communities around receiving their supports and services from us, but how we do it, right? So that we are doing it, we're side by side with our families and thinking about the implementation of the framework, as well as the quality of supports and services that we deliver. So I told my panel I was going to do a little preachy thing about the pyramid model. That's all I'll do. because you're going to be the expert in this topic that we're talking about. And before we dig in, I'd like them just to introduce their name so you know who they are, which program they're with. And then we'll really dig in and learn about their programs and what that looks like in each of these two unique programs. So let me invite, why don't we start with Cook Inlet Native Head Start, and that's Marjorie and Kitty.
Hi, I'm Marjorie Harris. I'm the Special Needs Coordinator here at Cook Inlet Native Head Start.
And hi, I'm Catherine McCullough, but everyone calls me Kitty, and I am the teacher mentor / coach here at Cook Inlet Native Head Start. And previously, before that, I was both a Head Start teacher and an early Head Start teacher.
Oh, great. Thanks for sharing. And then Whitney. We're glad
Hi, I'm Whitney Sauer. I'm from the Zaasijiwan Head Start in Wisconsin. I've been here for about 8 years, and right now I'm the internal coach for the last 5.
And Whitney will share a little bit for Tashina. She's ill today. We miss her. She did a wonderful job preparing and was ready to present, but she is unable to be here. It is the season, right? So let's talk about kind of the programs a little bit more. Do you want to get started for us, Whitney?
Sure. Right here is a little bit more about us. We're located in northern Wisconsin on the Lac de Flambeau Reservation. We're a Head Start that's part of the Lake Superior Chippewa Indians, and the reservation goes over 4 counties. We're about an hour south of Lake Superior. We have 7 classrooms, 2 home visitors. We're located in the same building as our elementary school. Right now we have full enrollment at about 95 kids. Yeah.
So, Whitney, are all of the children and families members of the Chippewa, or do you have diverse tribes that you're serving?
We do have a diverse tribe. We can pull from other tribes that are overlapping. Otherwise people move in and out of the area, but because we are in 4 counties, we do have some diversity, but mainly it's the kids in this reservation.
Right. And then I think we have a little bit about, sorry so much about my mouse, the classroom. You want to share on behalf of Tashina, who couldn't be here?
Yeah, this is Tashina's classroom. She was super excited to share. She's got a picture of her schedule in her large group area, and then a picture of the family tree. They've been working really hard on getting pictures of the families as well as pictures of the kids and posting them throughout the room. But the tree kind of resembled the family and the culture of the room. So she was really excited about that. And then the area for the calming area and pyramid model supports is set up in that other picture. She was just really excited to share a room.
And I'm looking at the circle time rug. I think that's what that is. It looks like, and there was intentionality there to not just use your typical ABC 1, 2, 3. Is that consistent in your program?
Yeah, most of the rugs, that one right there has got like the 7 grandfather teachings. They incorporate that in there along with like the counting and the singing of the song that you'll see on another slide. We have it posted.
Can you share a little more about the 7 grandfather teachings if we don't know
So
what?
there's 7 different ones. We have like truth, wisdom, bravery, love, humility. And then we've also used that to connect with our expectations of the program. We are safe, we are kind, and we are responsible.
And
that'll come up too.
Oh, great. That's wonderful. I think we'll all be interested in learning a little more about that. All right, so now we're going to zoom over to Alaska.
Yes, we live, we're here in Anchorage, Alaska, which is the largest urban city in Alaska. So we live on Dena'ina land, but we serve many cultures. There's about 21, I think,
Yeah.
approximately different Alaska Native cultures. And at different times, we're serving the different children. So we do a rotation of honoring different cultures during different months. And it's usually two culture groups put together so that we could try to get to everyone's culture and honor it. We use the Alaska Native values, and we have a beautiful new building that was just built, and it was used, they used cultural ideas and built it in a very more traditional way. The pattern that you see on the outside of the building is a Dena'ina pattern that would have been on their, I'm going to say it wrong, but I'm not going to try to say it. There's a case that holds their arrows, and that would be the pattern that would have been on there. And so there was lots of intentionality with the design of the building as well. The classrooms have a smoke hole in the middle of them. This is a classroom before it really had all the stuff in it on all the way to the left. But they have a smoke hole, and we don't do circle time. We do gathering time.
Right.
Like many of the traditional Native cultures would gather together and tell stories and share wisdom. And that's essentially what circle time is. And so circle time, we've gotten rid of a lot of things that are in a typical circle time, and children gather together, and the teachers share their knowledge, and the children share their knowledge with them. So that's our school. It's pretty beautiful. We have 2 sites. And we serve, I said approximately 300 children, but I found out the exact number is 259 right now. So
Approximately.
The photos are really beautiful. It looks like you're fortunate with this lovely building.
Oh, yes. And our playgrounds are all built in traditional ways and have different culture. We're just really lucky to be a very culture rich environment. Our children have real items to use and to explore every day. They have real baskets, and they have real regalia, and a lot of many
Furs.
yeah, furs and traditional furs. And we have visitors that come and tell traditional stories and song and dance, and we're very lucky and blessed. And that's why, yeah, pyramid model is what we chose to work with, because it aligns so well with all of our cultural values.
That's amazing. So tell us more about the playground aligning. So are there?
Yeah, so the playground was, well, we have our new building, and that playground has, let me see. It has like whales in the blue water. It's hard to see, but there's whales in the blue water. And then over here next to the whales are these trees that are upside down. And people don't know about the trees, but as Dena'ina hunters used to go up into the tree, and the water would come in, and they would use that to hunt the whales. There's a sea lion that lives in our sandbox. Over in our tutor site, which is the site I work at more, there's housing. There's different kinds of housing that would have been in different areas. There's a cache here that you could see. That wasn't a house, but that's where they would have kept their traditional, they'd store their meats. And that's a slide. And it just, a lot of thought has been put into it, and it had to be, constructed and built specifically for us. So
That's wonderful. And I have another question, because of the construction and kind of the alignment of the physical space for the children and families. Were families or your policy council, were people involved in kind of the design? And
yes, so people were involved, and they even had them like grab items of meaning. I wasn't involved, but they had them grab certain items and colors, the color scheme, and all of that was taken from that. Each of our classrooms over at our new Nakayat Anantu site have cultural names. We felt it was very important. We don't use the English name for the classrooms. Juk room, which is one of our babies' rooms, it means blueberry, but we never call it the blueberry classroom. It's definitely Juk room. And words like Nakaya Anatu, which means our community gathering place, were very hard for me to learn. I was very worried about it, but now it rolls off my tongue. And so it is possible for us to use Indigenous languages, even if you're not a traditional speaker. And it shows respect to the culture by using those languages first instead of second.
clearly, this is fascinating. I think now everybody on the webinar is going to want to visit. So
yeah, no, the building is
prepared.
built circular. So they all face, all the classrooms face. They really did a beautiful job of incorporating culture and making this, what our director said, when you walk into the space, he wants you to know that you're in an Indigenous space. Even without anyone talking or anyone saying anything, you can feel that you're in the space that Indigenous people learn together.
I've heard a parent that has come to visit or brought their student to the school, walked into the building and said, feels like home.
Isn't that
Mhm.
such great testimony to the
Yes.
effort? And as you pointed out, I think consistent with this idea, right, of a
Mhm.
caring community, right? So
Yes.
you
Right.
see it in the physical space. So very fortunate to be able to have that. I love that. So tell us a little bit. We'll start with you, Al, since you're talking about your program. Kind of why did you want to do the pyramid model out of all the social emotional stuff that's out there? Why?
Well, our mental health consultant at the time, she introduced it to us and gathered a small panel of people who were interested in working with her and getting this ball started to implement the pyramid model. We met once a week. We worked on getting the ball rolling. We worked on creating a developmental and behavioral referral packet that follows along the pyramid model, uses a lot of some of the forms that are in the pyramid model. We really like the idea that the pyramid model supported social emotional skills, because we believe that without the social emotional skills, students will struggle. They can learn their ABCs anytime. They can learn their 1, 2, 3s at any time. But if they don't have that social emotional piece, they're going to be behind their typical peers. They're going to struggle to go along and learn the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. We really wanted to support those kiddos who were having some, maybe behavioral issues, struggling in that area. And we wanted to support them at the tier 1 level and tier 2 level and not let them get to the tier 3 level. So we wanted to learn how to put those interventions in place, use the referral packet forms to support those students at the very bottom of the pyramid. And how are we going to, letting our teachers know that they are the foundation of the pyramid. The whole school staff is the foundation. And if we're all on this foundation, then we're able to give the students a solid place to start from.
It was just really beautiful, though. I mean, we look at traditional values of child rearing and how they would raise their children in a community, and how it starts with that foundation of relationship and that strong relationship with your family and then your community. And it aligns so well. And then we had already been learning about trauma-informed care and best practices. And, with the group we serve, that's so important because there's still generational trauma and there's so much trauma that teachers really need to be, and everyone from management, all the way down to everybody needs to be trauma informed. And so, and then we use 10 universal Alaska Native values because there's so many cultures and everyone has their own values and their own set of values. There was an elder group that met together and they came up with 10 that are similar to each other. And when we looked at those values, they really aligned with what kind of skills we were looking for to support the kids with pyramid model. And that's when we came up with our program-wide expectations from those values and from what we expect from social emotional learning.
And each classroom has the program-wide expectations hung up somewhere for, the parents can see it. It's in the classroom. It's visible that they know that their values and their expectations are a part of who we are here.
I'm still trying to get sweatshirts made.
Yes, you
Come on,
definitely.
guys. Sweatshirts.
Mhm.
It's fascinating. So folks, I'm asking lots of questions, and those of you who are listening, if you have questions, you can put them in the Q&A because we will have a little bit of time so that you can ask your particular
Mhm.
question. So let's go back to Wisconsin. Why did you, Whitney, why did you all decide to do the pyramid model?
Some similar reasons to Cook Inlet, and I think we were closed for a while, and actually our Head Start supervisor kind of got some information for pyramid model, but we needed some framework, not necessarily a curriculum or anything, because we use a different curriculum, but something to guide us after rebuilding from being closed for a period of time due to the pandemic. And I think just more support for the children and staff and the families. It was the right direction to head. It's also a great support to help me for coaching. I was newer to the role, and having an external coach and other areas that help support me in the coaching was very beneficial. And just having a guide that's supportive to the framework and implementing something that is really beneficial. Yeah.
Great. So many of the same kind of ideas and reasons
Yep.
we're coming to pyramid model.
Yeah.
Let's see. Can't get it to go forward for some reason. So do you want to keep talking and tell us more about what you did to align it with the culture of the children and families that you're serving?
Sure. We started by forming like a leadership team who was really passionate about social emotional and, developing that with the culture. We created meetings, we rolled it out to staff and make sure that they were all on board with it. We asked for feedback or suggestions. We also rolled it out to like the families during like an enrollment rally. We asked for their input. When we had to develop some of the expectations and rules, we did a survey with the families to see what they wanted of their children. And we implemented that into the program, and then sat down as a whole program and came up with our expectations and made posters. We hung them throughout the program. We met with families monthly. A couple were really involved and offered more support and ideas, and we just used them and kept taking their input and implementing it into the program. We gathered a lot of feedback from the families and from the staff to make sure that they all felt involved and the families felt involved. We made sure they were a part of a lot of the things. We do surveys during conferences. We incorporate a lot of additional pyramid model resources or practices during some of our family socials. We have storytelling and powwows and yeah, all those things. So we just work to really incorporate a lot of that together and kind of make it a whole. But yeah.
So I see on your slide that you, and I know that we have some materials on NCPMI that are in Ojibwe, but I know we've encountered some issues. So could you unpack that a little bit? Because I think it's important for us to learn. I'm a person who works to bring pyramid model to programs, and I know some people on the call are also thinking about that. So I know, Whitney, y'all had some observations about language and
Yeah, some of the, feedback was the different dialects. It is a little different on the pronouncing of it. We had a lot of different resources, and we do have some immersion staff who can speak fluently that kind of help support some of that. Working with the families allowed us to connect and get some of the actual dialect that's used more in the community. But because they're part of like this Ojibwe band, they span over the area of like Lake Superior. So there's different dialects that kind of impacted some of that. We were able to get some of the resources, but they were a lot of Spanish and English. So we had to work really hard to also implement some Ojibwe-Moan. But we created culture committees, language committees, and then we kind of worked together to support each other in that. And we've reached out to some of the other language departments in the grade school and the high school to try to get more feedback and supporting that. So it allowed us to connect to other entities and bring in more of that cultural and language.
That's great. I love that reaching out for collaboration and kind of growing your circle of support to be able to do that and to support people in their native language. And it was a good reminder to me when we and I talked about before the webinar about it's not just enough to have a language, right? That we want to have the language in English, given that because of staff and et cetera, and helping children learn both as multilingual learners. So I think that's really interesting. I had another question for you, which is when you were in this process of surveying families and surveying staff, did you get any hesitation, and were there things that you had to do to overcome that, or was everybody on board? Do you recall?
I guess I can only speak for myself, but a lot of the teachers had to, kind of build those relationships with the families. When we first started, we kind of just set up a table of information and hope they would come and kind of do an interactive activity and then talk about it. Or we shared like a YouTube video. We shared resources in the newsletters, and then just kind of made it part of, our everyday practice, pyramid model framework. I think it connects to everything. Sometimes there is a little bit because like the surveys can be a little longer. A lot of it is kind of more, we do like interview style. That's been helpful just because, the relationships there and the teachers, if they know the material, they can go through it and then ask the questions to the families. We don't get full participation, but we get quite a bit. I'd say, half or so are pretty, open and communicative. As long as they have that solid foundation with the teachers and the relationship and our program, it really helps.
Great. Good. So interesting. All right. So back to Alaska. Tell us a little bit about your fit of this with an alignment with the culture of your family.
Right. Well, I mean, we really got to it from one of our, building blocks of everything we do. People think I'm kind of a nerd, but I really always go back to our mission statement, which is really building strong foundations with Alaska Native families through Alaska Native cultures and education. And so that culture piece is so important. And it really just guides everything we do. And it really led us to the pyramid model and the main reasons we use it. Some of our families have had very negative experiences with school and with teachers and with education as a whole. And so one of our main goals is really to strengthen the families by showing them that school and culture and who you are as a family doesn't have to be separate. They're not in separate boxes. They can be connected together. And so it's a hard job, but it's an important job. And the pyramid model being a framework really allows us to individualize. And like I said, we have 21 different languages. There we go. I could talk. Sorry, y'all. And so some of the resources, we always have to do that extra work of putting it in the different languages and having it available to families. Some of our languages are dying languages, so I'm not coming in speaking Unang and Tunu. It's a language that's from my culture maybe, but it's not one that I know. And so we're trying to teach language. So it's not just putting the resources up there for families in their language, but also supporting them to learn their languages. And then there's dialects too. I go to Unang and Tunu because my husband is Unangan, and they have two main dialects, but they also have little variations from village to village. They're very spread out. But we try our best to put everything in there. So I always thought that maybe a more accessible resources where we could type instead of me putting like a post-it note over something, if we could be able to type in our own languages into the spots. Maybe we could just, I don't have any Spanish speaking families, so maybe we could just take the Spanish spot. I don't know. Just thinking, brainstorming
That's
out loud.
great. That's great feedback. That's something that I could ask somebody to do for you all.
Yeah.
Yeah, we left it on there and had to do label makers and just did
See.
all of it, but then it kind of took up a lot of the material, so that's a really good suggestion.
And it's time consuming, somebody has to do that. And
Right.
somebody has to make sure you're spelt right and you have the right little symbols above everything, and and not everyone has all that language knowledge. And so if we can make it easier to just type in there. I know there's different apps we have to get to type some of our languages though on our computers too, because there's different symbols that they use to write their languages. But yeah, that would be more helpful and it would look better. No one wants to see their it written in English in a nice poster, and then it's got a little post-it note or whatever it is over the Spanish word. So anyway, yeah, and then that went back to just those traditional values that we used, and we really just try to use cultural knowledge. And I'm always amazed when people come up with the newest and greatest ways of teaching children, especially social emotional skills. And I listen to elders and I'm like, this is not new, you all. This is something that's been happening for generations and generations, and ancestors way before us have been using these ways of raising children. And now I could say it's new and make $1 million, I guess. I don't know.
Well,
I haven't figured out how to do that yet, but
yeah, not sure any of us is making $1 million. I love that what you just said, right? It's the listening to elders, right? It's not new, and we can listen and then make that happen, right? For all children in the classrooms as partners. Did you tell me, or it was you in Wisconsin or both? We have some things that we have offered. They're really illustrations, right? So for example, Tucker the Turtle's an illustration of how you teach children self-regulation skills, but you don't use that, or?
So we leave
We
it
do.
there for our teachers to use. I don't make all of my teachers use it because it's not an Alaskan animal.
Right.
And because the age group that we serve, we really want real concrete animals. And so we were trying to come up with all our extra time, we're at Head Start, so we don't have extra time, but Alaskan animals that do like similar things.
Yeah.
But right now we just allow the teachers to use Tucker the Turtle, but we would love for it to be something that's more relatable to our children and our families.
Marty the Moose.
Something like that. I can't remember what it was. There was one of them, the Alaskan animal that does tuck in. That we
There is
thought
an Alaskan animal that tucks in?
there is, and my supervisor told it to me, and I
Oh, okay.
out of my brain, but we had it, and so it's one of those kind of adaptions that we use. We use our own clip art. We have Alaska Native artists that make Alaska Native clip art that you'll see. Just things like not having circle time and having gathering time. When we talk about, a lot of people would just say manners or something like that. We more talk about values and how you're being raised. So.
Those are really great illustrations, I think. And that's the point, right? That's the point. These things that we've shared is not because it's a curriculum and we want everyone to use it, but it's ideas. And I wish
a lot of it comes down to teachers actually, like the way they teach. We don't have all Alaska Native teachers, but their understanding of a child is not being disrespectful to me if they're not making eye contact, because they're from a culture where children don't make eye contact with adults that they respect. So that kind of knowledge that's shared between people so that there's not miscommunications. And so sometimes if you open up a curriculum box from Michigan or wherever, I don't know, Missouri, Idaho, I don't know.
Anywhere.
And anywhere. And it's been written, you know, for the mainstream population. It has some of those prejudice in there that they don't really know
Right.
are even there.
Mhm.
And but with pyramid model being a framework, we're able to really just use what we need.
Mhm.
And
Good.
so we haven't, I haven't experienced that. I mean, other than the animals, but that's not really a thing, but at all. But you know, children must look at me to show that they're showing respect. You know, look at
Well,
my in.
and sometimes
Yeah.
kids won't, you'll ask them a question if it's a yes, no question. If it's a yes question, sometimes they won't answer you. And I've had to really pay attention. Their eyebrows will raise.
They'll answer you with their
That's
eyebrows. It's a
that's how they're
traditional.
responding to you.
Mhm.
And so it's been a
Interesting.
learning curve for me too.
Yeah.
Interesting. I love how tuned in you are to that. That's so important. Yeah. All right, I'm going to move us forward a little bit. We have so much to talk about.
Oh.
So we'll stick with you all because I asked y'all
Okay.
to tell me about the accomplishments you're really proud of. And do you want to
Oh, well, like Kitty was saying, we have an Alaskan Native artist who has taken clip art or made clip art for us. And up in the or the left-hand corner, you can see a teacher has taken those Alaskan Native clip art and used it for her daily schedule. And the arrow moves down so the children can see the headdresses and the
Mhm.
regalia, and they can recognize themselves in these pictures.
Mhm. And that daily schedule is from pyramid model.
Yes.
When we go through the classroom checklist, they want to have a visual schedule where it moves, and those are the kind of ideas that we give the teachers, and then we give them the cultural pieces on top of
Right.
it, and they just move together.
We
in a
just kind of
lovely
meld
way.
them together. Yeah.
Yeah.
And even with what we're really proud of too is creating that developmental and behavioral referral process.
Mhm.
And a lot of the clip art goes in with that. We've kind of modified some forms, made smiley face forms for different areas for tracking. The teachers have really come along with being able to follow the process. And we're able to use Google Forms to track behaviors and see where students started and how they've progressed, or if they've
Yeah.
not progressed. I like, you know, for me, when I'm using an intervention, I like to take the student's actual picture and things around the classroom and make a chart for them for different, you know, a first then chart. They have the actual stuff that they are using in the classroom
Mhm.
and the cultural things that belong to them in that classroom.
And you could tell that Miss Marjorie is our special needs coordinator. So she's really thinking about those kids in that second tier and that
Yes.
third tier.
Mhm.
One of the great things was a pyramid model was using it to support the bottom tier
Mm-hmm.
and really like informing teachers of everything that needs to be available in their classroom before they need to make referrals. And you'll be often surprised, and that's a part of our developmental referral process, is that have you met with your coach? Have you met with other people and discussed all the pieces that should be in place in your classroom first?
Have you
And
modified your classroom?
modified your classroom, how your classroom is set up, and looking at that piece and like that self-reflection piece that's so important to the
Mhm.
pyramid model before we start referring kids to Miss Marjorie. So
Hmm.
Right.
There's one picture on here I'm curious about, and the art is amazing. There's one in the corner that says Super Friend. Is that an illustration of Super Friend? Did you
Yes.
know?
it's a super friend, but
Yes.
it's a traditional super friend.
It's a
Yeah.
traditional one.
Yeah.
And who is which one is
This
it?
one down
Is
here.
that one? Yeah. Oh, that's
Yeah.
our newer pieces. Yeah. Mhm.
Very lovely.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So how about Whitney, how about you and what y'all have done, what y'all are proud of? So,
I think we've done quite a bit. Like I said, we had to do a lot of rebuilding. We're going on year 3, but just starting from the bottom, having some effective workplace was really beneficial. We've seen a growth in program support and caring for the culture and finding ways to support staff and children and families. It's helped us align with some of our program goals and our school readiness goals, just to build stronger relationships with families. It's given us resources to support in different areas that are needed. It's all organized very nicely and you can search for it. We've seen a reduced in behaviors with a lot of the social emotional things. We're able to track that through the PID system, but behaviors have reduced, and we've met and looked at some of the data and talked about it. It's helped us collect and analyze that, provide professional development to help with that, also to provide families and what they'd like to see for some of the parenting curriculum or the parenting supports. They've been able to provide input on what they'd like to see, creating different committees, like I've said, universal practices, universal expectations in the program. It's guided us to help with tier 2 and tier 3 supports for our disabilities and mental health coordinator, behavior specialist. We've been able to work with care teams with the families and just have clear communication. It's been a great tool for myself, for the coaching practices and helping and supporting the teachers, and it's all around connected between the teachers and the staff and the kids and the families. It's really beneficial and has been a great framework. We're looking for a social emotional curriculum now to start implementing, to keep supporting that, and keep growing with some of the things that we have implemented. Yeah.
So Whitney, you said PIDS, it just rolled off your tongue, but I don't know if everybody on the webinar knows what PIDS is. Could you just, a little segue, what is PIDS? How do you use it in your program?
Sure. It's part of the pyramid model, and we have access to recording our coaching, recording our teapot and tippy toe tools that we use for observations, as well as tracking BIRs, which are the behaviors that are happening in the room. We're able to look at that. It's able to tell us the time of day, the time of week. We're able to kind of narrow it down to see maybe what practice we could implement during that time. It also tracks our benchmarks of quality that we do every 6 months. And that really just kind of keeps us on track and holds us accountable to keep implementing this framework.
Wow, every 6 months? That's stellar.
Mhm.
So PIDS stands for Pyramid Information Data
System or something, yeah.
And Wisconsin subscribes to it. So it's a online system that holds all the data. So Whitney gets to use that instead of a gazillion spreadsheets, right?
Yeah.
And
Excel
then
is
it's
not
all
very
there.
friendly for me.
And you find it's pretty easy to use and helpful to your program?
It is. It runs great reports. We're able to share that with some of the information we can share with families. Otherwise, we share it with the program. And it just helps a lot for planning. It's using the data and kind of creating a plan.
Great. That's fascinating. I'm going to keep moving forward. I want to remind people who are listening that you too can ask questions, and we'll stop talking in a minute for you to do that. But also you can chat them in at any point or in the Q&A little pod, I guess is what you call it. So I had asked people to think about what advice they have, either for other programs who might consider implementing with Indigenous or Native children and their families. Also to think about what advice they might have for, in general, around pyramid model implementation. I think you're up first, still up, Whitney, to share with us your advice.
I think, I've said it before, it's just really building the relationships, having a strong foundation, effective, workforce, and that'll help you and guide you in doing that. It's a great support tool for your coach, and, your coachees. It's helped us kind of be able to, give gratitude and recognition to the staff and even, the children. The PID system, like we talked about before, has been really great and beneficial for telling our data story. Keep meeting, create a leadership team and collaborate with your families.
Great, good. All right, Cook Inlet, what about you? What's your advice?
Well, a lot of what
Whitney.
Whitney had said aligns with that. Train staff at pre-service every year. Just because it's done this way this year doesn't mean we are, going to keep it every year. We tweak things all the time. We make things better, or we want to make things better. We want to see what works, what didn't work. I want feedback from the teachers on how comfortable they were with filling out those BIR forms and the forms for behaviors for our tracking. So just having that pre-service training for all staff to let them know, keep them in the know of the pyramid model. Definitely create a pyramid model leadership team and meet monthly. Something that we have not been
It's
doing.
been a challenge.
And I guess it's a dream of mine. Is why it's on there. Is I would like to see that happening so that we can keep it strong and keep it going. Culturally responsive and respectful team members. Definitely we connect with your culture coordinator and make sure that we're representing all cultures correctly.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if all Head Starts, tribal Head Starts have a cultural coordinator, but we do. We're very
yes, we're
lucky
lucky.
here. And so she's the one that really we turn to for that knowledge. And and she has culture bearers that come and visit the classrooms and do different things with the children. And if I have a question about, something in Yupik, I can go see her. And so it's great to have that resource.
It's a great resource, yes. And most importantly, get to know your families. I think that's the key right there. And let those families know they're valued and their culture is valued. And we're going to represent and support that before going anywhere else. If families don't have your trust and don't feel like they're valued, pyramid model's not going to work.
So, great suggestions, great advice. Whitney, do you have a culture coordinator? Is that common across Head Starts?
No, we have like our culture language committee.
Oh, okay.
So we kind of collaborate with them and then reach out to other programs, but nothing on site. So
Yeah, so that's it's two different ways that you might do that and accomplish that goal.
Right.
Those ideas. Whitney, you had another slide you had put together.
This I actually pulled. This is a BOQ. We complete the benchmarks of quality, and it shows where we are at and how much growth we've done. But it also is like reassuring to us that it is helping and we're making a difference. It's a great guide and a great framework to use.
It's so your data are impressive. So you've really done quite a lot.
Yeah, and I totally, the time and the meetings, I understand sometimes we have 2 or 3 at our meetings. Other times we have all 6 to 7. But usually we kind of make sure we can get it in and plan for what's next. So it's great to have a team that, that wants that support and that guidance for universal practices. And we have a pretty diverse group, so that helps as well. Yeah.
Right. It's so fun to see these data, right? And just holds it for you. So we can take some questions. We have a little bit of time. But I don't really have any, except people love the idea for NCPMI to offer a blank space so that you can put your own language in. That's come up.
Mhm.
I don't know if there are other questions or not.
I think I
guess-
saw the one about the expectations, maybe.
Okay,
There was
yeah, do you
if someone
want to?
asked about expectations. We have the program-wide expectations. Ours are, do you have yours?
Okay.
But
No.
anyway, there's a slide with them. I can name them off the top of my head, but there's know who we are, we respect, we, yeah, anyway.
Yeah, we
So
saw
those
the
program-wide
image, yeah.
expectations, yes, the image, it's on a male Yupik dance band. Those expectations are not classroom rules. They're just the expectations that guide the whole center. And so it's from how our front desk person greets their families, from how the coach interacts with the teachers, to down to how we treat our families and how they treat us. And so those are the expectations, and they go into the classrooms and they align with classroom rules, but they're more like the whole program as a whole. These are the expectations, not just for classrooms and not just for teachers, but they're for everybody. And, showing that respect to everyone. And that's how we should treat each other. And, it starts with management or supervisors really taking that ownership and deciding that it's important and this is worth their time, because a lot of times, we give things to teachers and teachers can do a lovely job, but if they don't have that continued support, they're not going to be successful. And so they need a team, and it needs to be the whole program buying into this framework, and then it works well.
Yeah, I'm glad you made that point about expectations and rules, right? And it's so nice when the expectations are global, they're across everyone, our families know them, we know them, because it offers you, I like to think about the expectation offers the why to children, right? The why of the rule, the why of the way we are doing things, the why of why we learn about being kind, and it helps children with that. And when you've got them locked down, you can use them on your redirect of anything that you're doing, right? With each other, with children. I think it really, way back in the day, I was kind of like, what's the expectation rule kind of thing? And then I saw the beauty of it. I do think it's wonderful, and I'm glad that you guys were really thoughtful about the alignment of those. We didn't have any other questions in the pod. Maybe one's coming up. Let's see. Okay, Ben Ripe is one of our staffers, also acknowledged how nice it is that you're talking about everybody following those expectations. So I wonder if, since we don't have any more questions, we are about at time. So it was a great conversation. I want to just talk, which is part of my problem. I wonder if do you have anything you want to say, departing wisdom or reflection, before we just call it a day and all go to have a lovely weekend?
Just want to say, if you're going to take this pyramid model and you're going to put it into practice, give it time. We've been doing it for about 3 years now, and we're still need to modify. We still need to perfect it. I don't know if we'll ever be proficient at it or not, but it's just an ongoing process. It doesn't just, we're going to take this pyramid model and here we go, it's working. No, it takes time, and it takes work, and it takes dedication.
But it's worth it.
But it is worth it. I've seen such progress in some students. I had just briefly, I had one little guy this year that I thought for sure he needs an IEP. He needs this support. He was very low in social emotional skills. I implemented interventions from the pyramid model. We work with the teachers, and now we're at a point where he doesn't qualify.
Yay.
He didn't qualify. He progressed, and he can self-regulate. He could notice I'm upset. he goes to the cube and he'll look at different emotional books and recognize how he's feeling.
I love that story. Whitney, you have
Yeah.
any final words?
That's a great story. It's really helped me as the coach and helped me support our staff and the teachers so they can do their best. It's really great, but yeah, it's a framework and it takes time. And it's it'll be a roller coaster just like everything else at Head Start. I mean, but it's worth it. So
Right.
Great. I thank you guys
Right.
so much for sharing. Yeah, it is a continuous learning experience.
Yeah.
It is for us too,
Mhm.
as we dig into the work. So I'm going to
Right.
give it back to Victor, who's going to call it as we're done. And thank you so much for being willing to share
You're welcome.
your rich experiences. I think we've all learned a lot. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right, Victor.
All right. Thank you so very much to all of our panelists for their wonderful insights. Your feedback is very important to the work that we do. Please remember to provide your feedback on this webinar with our post-webinar survey by typing the web address shown on this slide into your internet browser. Your certificate of attendance will appear once you submit the survey. We invite you to visit our website, challengingbehavior.org, to sign up for our upcoming webinars, access recordings, download pyramid model resources, and more. Thank you to our funder for making this webinar possible. This concludes our webinar. Thank you all and have a great rest of your day.